everybody. Um, yeah, I'm still getting used to these things. That microphone, harmonica holder, which has freed up my hands to mix with the computer a bit more. I hope you like that. Definitely was fun to do. So, I mean, normally I generally like to have an idea of what I want to talk about. But this week it's been less sci-fi, more political. Yes. The Trump impeachment has just begun. And it's always a shit show, especially these days. But what's been interesting, particularly about this round, has been the obviousness of the bullshit of it. Just because, right, Trump is being impeached for incitement of violence, right? And the question is if his rhetoric was that much worse than, half the rhetoric we were getting from other politicians over the last, 4 years, 5 years, 8 years, however long. And then combine that with the Super Bowl, which was a super spreader event, right? Or it likely will be, but let's just hope, fingers crossed, that we get our shit together and actually figure out a way to manage living with pandemic. Though I guess the severity of COVID and the long-term effects of COVID are what make it so staggeringly different from things like the flu and common cold, or other common colds rather, where you get better within a month and your life is not worse for wear. With this shit, the symptoms can last for, we don't know how long yet since it's so new. So I'm gonna try to stay in frame today, but whatever. It's gonna be a bit of a challenge because I enjoy watching this. This week's description, or rather, this week's background is more flowers. I like flowers. You may notice some landscapes in the background. These were picked specifically because they're reflections over water. So mountains by lakes. There's some rivers in there. I don't think I put any cities in, but it's just a joy. I thought, reflections for reflecting, that sort of thought process, the pun of it is part of the joy of making these things. So, politics, or rather, I'm not really interested in politics per se, more the way we act around it, and the way we act around information we don't like. Because, right, the Times magazine released an article where they were talking about how a cabal of wealthy and influential people conspired together to secure the election and to have the proper result, right? And, I remember talking about this months ago and just being called, either an idiot, conspiracy theorist, or, just all this random bullshit. And then once the election happened, I wasn't recording during the election, but I was investigating, and, don't quote me on this, because I'm not going to testify in front of anybody, but, I did find evidence of election fraud, and it was kind of staggering, too, but, being a software engineer, I could see how it'd be easy to pass it off as just, just normal election nonsense, right? Because the problem with the GOP is that they don't have enough people. big tech is mostly liberal in its orientation politically, right? They're not really encouraged to be the... Yeah, my cat just came in, and she's gonna leave in about 5 seconds. Yeah, she's about to leave. Yeah, I should keep her locked up, but whatever. So, I'm back. Sorry about that. So yeah, the issue's been this whole idea of, like, there's news that we don't want to get, and when we do get it, we don't want to listen to it because it's bad news. You know, you're just like, oh, fuck it. Like, what does that person know? You know, and it makes sense when you're trying to find credible sources to, you know, give you evidence that you then don't have to really think about too much. You can just trust them and, you know, go about your day, like, because you know New York Times, yada yada yada, won't steer you wrong, right? And there's been a lot of disillusionment in my life just as I deal with, you know, managing the incentives and, like, the inevitable biases that these companies will have just because they have their own self-interests, right? Like Fox News's, no, not Fox, CNN's, what was it? Their ratings dropped 44% after Trump left office, like the week after. And, like, they clearly have a self-interest in keeping the news inflammatory. And this whole idea becomes coupled with how people are able to manipulate the information that we get as a public. And the fact that, like, the truth was out there. Like, it wasn't hidden that this was happening. Like, it was obvious to a certain extent that it was happening. And people were calling it out. Like, Trump himself was calling it out. That, oh, they're trying to steal the election from me, but, you know, fortifying the election against me, whatever. But little, like, double-speak language games that they play, or that are played, rather, because I don't want to describe it a mysterious eponymous they, right? But it's like, it's a slippery slope to begin with, just because now who's to say the next election won't be reinforced one way or the other? Like, it's so glaringly morally bankrupt, to say the least. And, like, I was complicit in this too, because I could have very well have spoken up and said, yo, but, like, one, my voice isn't that loud anyway. Like, I'm a naturally soft-spoken person, and I'm not gonna be the one to be going out and, you know, evangelizing for Trump that, you know, whatever the powers that be are working against him. But then, when the powers that be are members of his constituency, and they're working their hardest to prevent his win, is that not the same sort of, you know, campaign strategy that we should expect from both sides? Like, this is democracy at work, right? But it goes beyond the votes and starts definitely more, like, accruing into the way the rules are made, right? Because up until late in the election, or up until the election, we had the issue of voter ID laws, right? Which is one of those bullshit things that, like, people obviously, like, anybody that thought 2 seconds about voter ID would realize that to drive in this country you need an ID, to do almost anything in this country you need an ID, so why wouldn't you need an ID to vote? Oh, elderly people wouldn't have IDs. What the fuck? Black people don't have IDs. What the fuck? Like, minorities don't have IDs. No, minorities are probably ID'd up more just because we're afraid of the cops, you know? It's, like, bullshit like that. So, like, then using those sorts of logic to game the system to make it more easy to manipulate and, let's be honest, cheat. Like, is cheating in an election right if it's the will of the people? But then, is it the will of the people if they had to cheat to get their way? And then, like, questions start to emerge about, the numbers, because the last thing I want is for this Biden election to be overturned, and then the Republicans have reason to now claim, their election was stolen, because you now have an admission of it from, Times, and I'm sure more are going to come out soon. And eventually they will find what I found about vote counts in swing states, but I'm not going to. I feel shitty teasing it anyway, but it's going to come out eventually. So yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna dive too deep into that one, just because I'd rather not be put on the stand or subpoenaed. And yeah, I plead the fifth. I'm not. I mean, it's not self-incriminating. It's a problem. It's just a software engineer looking at the software system and just seeing holes, massive glaring holes in security. But you can hire any of the security experts to do this, but the question is if they're going to be honest about it, about the potential for, tampering on all these levels. And then, oh man, it's about motive. But then if you have to pay the software official enough to get them to say what you want, is that testimony valid? Probably not. But I mean, even with my other conspiratorial stuff, I get the same thing where I'm giving news that isn't really welcome, at least. But you gotta deal with it. Here, meet my kitty, Stella. She's the one that generally costs. Oh, you can't even see her. The lighting effect is very... And she's not happy about being put on camera, is she? Maybe one of these days I'll make the camera more friendly to her. And now she's off again. So, with all this in mind, like, I don't fault people for not wanting to hear news that they don't like, just because, I mean, it's human. Like, nobody wants to be on the losing side, or the cheating side, or whatever. But then, because of that lack of objectivity, we get caught by surprise by a lot of the bullshit. And, like, there's a level of emotional whiplash, but it also leaves the state and the people vulnerable, just because now the election can be contested, particularly if, the Times article was very careful in what they made public, just because, yes, they hired an army of poll workers, right, but they didn't say what the poll workers were likely doing. So there's a level of inferencing that must be done, and there's a lot of plausible deniability in how people behaved and what people did, but I'm sure it's going to come out soon enough what we were all up to for this. Man. And then we had the Super Bowl. And, like, there's a national crisis, and there are national holidays, and there's a game of, is it right, is it wrong, should we keep playing the games normal, should we try to keep things as normal as possible just to keep a sense of normality going. And part of me sees this as they just want to sell more stuff. Again, that eponymous they, eponymous, anonymous, whatever. It's that mysterious they group, right? And we all know who they are. They're, the billionaire class, but they're the employer class, the people that without whom society theoretically collapses because they own the means of production and yada yada yada. And not to go all commie and bullshit, but like the setup of society has become so top heavy that because of the disruption caused by COVID to the wealth generating class or the wealth hoarding class, let's put it that way, the flow of resources through the economy has, shrunk to the point that the small fish are starving. Small businesses are dying, but the big fish can still weather the storm and even eat off the corpses of the small little fish. Because I've got this habit of seeing the economy as a jungle sort of thing. And even less a jungle, more, well, not just the jungle in terms of animals, but also plants, fungi, a full biome that involves the infrastructure created by government, which ends up becoming more plant and fungal-like than the active businesses that I visualize as animals. So, you get, your freelancers who are essentially insects in this model, which gets depressing, but then the scaling works out pretty well because, the individual going around acting, a small series of cells dependent on resources from the government to an extent and often feeding off of them, but also often parasitic onto other companies. So, you do odd jobs for somebody else that owns a company. These sorts of visual tools for understanding how the economy relates to the politics get really concerning when you start seeing, right, that trees can release different pollens to change who their pollinators are, right? So that's kind of what I see happening with respect to this whole, how do I say, clusterfuck. Because the government's trying to, well, one, it's an old, it's not even, our government isn't old. The U.S. government is relatively young compared to, the monarchies in England and whatnot. But the issue is we inherited so much bullshit, and then we let ourselves be manipulated by the powerful, because corporate interests rule the day. And that's been one of the very interesting things about Donald Trump as a president. Because even though he is a corporatist, corporate interests have been sort of a 50-50 with him. Like, businesses do well in uncertainty versus, state institutions. But the disaster of it, the ideological disaster, right? Part of me starts to now see it as this generated conflict that, it makes it easier to sell whatever you want to sell if you are convinced the other guy is doing something against you. For instance, Black Lives Matter and the KKK, right? We were convinced, racism is taking over this country, you must protest. Yay, protest. And then, you go out and protest, and it's not even like the state is encouraging this. These are all corporate political interests, and this is part of, it ties back to this Times article, right? Where there's a veiled threat that we would have more protests of the same sort consistently throughout the 4 years of another Trump presidency, because people can hold those cards. Like, the threat of violence or the threat of work slowdowns is such a powerful threat that even if you are apolitical, you just want to get along, so you just vote one way or the other. You can pressure governors, senators to vote one way or the other. or just to keep their mouths shut, right? Because they could obviously say things that would help your side. Like I'm sure there are a lot of people that know just how fucked it is and just don't want to say it because they don't want to be in the limelight for all this. And I guess part of the advantage that I have now is that I know this isn't going to be seen by very many people, at least not for a long time. So, like, I'm not that concerned. And, as a live video journal of sorts, it's, it's part of my weekly release at this point just to get this all out there. But, rolling back to Trump and the mess and the impeachment. And essentially shooting the messenger, right? Because that's essentially what's been happening the last 4 years. Where people have been telling you bad news for years, right? Al Gore with climate change. And it's always a statistical game of how we receive it. And if I remember correctly, it comes in stages, right? First, the 10% early adopters, who then get it to 25% of the, well-read, savvy, but don't want to be fringe people. And then that 25% hits it to 30% who are the beginnings of the, oh, okay, I see the savvy people are following this train now. Let's not fall behind. Then slowly that consensus starts broiling through the community until it hits 50%. And then furthermore, you then have a change of law, national policy. Gay people get marriage rights, even though 8 years prior, Democrats were all, Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve bullshit. Like, oh, I had a change of heart. No, you had a change in your polity and popular opinion switched, so you switch your policies with it. So that's kind of what I'm worried is happening now with regard to the way we view what is democratic, right? Because prior to this, the idea is you win the race by, getting the most votes, but also getting the right electoral college wins. But now, with this advancement in the state of politics, we then have this issue of, okay, we win by gaming the rules to our advantage and consistently changing the rules to make sure that our opponents are not able to balance themselves, which creates that much more discord in the system, but also realizes an issue of improperly formulated laws that can then be manipulated against the people by incidentally, not maliciously. Hopefully not maliciously, but you can never really trust these sorts of things. Oh gosh, because my worry automatically became, we're changing the laws, we're changing the rules, we're changing the gameplay. And with each new election cycle that comes through, do they get more and more warped? Because will we now need biometric scans to be able to go and vote because of this lack of voter ID? And then, 2 years down the line, it turns out that yes, there were a bunch of dead people that were voting and people voting twice, so we now have to have biometrics. And as a citizenry, that it's not outside of the realm of reason just to have, a biometric database of all of us. But with that, we're already on the edge of an oppressive police state, and we're fighting it. But it's not even really a fight. It's more just talking it down, because that's really what needs to happen. It's the standard of procedure, right? The defund the police movement. As messy as that has been and will continue to be, we're at least creating some change in that realm, and employing social workers to do the work that police had been overburdened with, which, further frees police to do police work, to work with dangerous individuals. But then with something like this, right, changing the rules, and I should get more specific in what rules, but honestly it doesn't matter. Just because, it's, like 20 different states that were, monitoring and manipulating the way they handle their elections. And this is why you get to deep state conspiracy theories, right? Because the deep state is always thought to be, a criminal cabal of, old, heavy money people in government. No, it's just your standard government employees. It's like the deep web. It's the 70 to 80% of the internet that you don't really see, that you don't really know about, you don't really care about, but they hold a lot of power because they are the bureaucracy. They're the ones doing the counting. They're the ones doing the accounting. They can decide. It's decisions that happen in mass that get me concerned, right? Particularly when you have thousands of people, tens of thousands of people, that then hold sway over millions. And when you have something in the sphere of like social media influencers, CEOs, and media heads, like, that's a dangerous mix, because it's very 1984. And like right now, there's been issues with Google's. Google's always been a player in this sort of political game. Always, for the last 10 years. They've realized their position of power and been able to leverage that to, lobby, but also to coerce. And then just the outright censorship. Because what happened is that people that were right about this, people that were calling it out for what it was, hey, this is election manipulation on a mass scale. Like, there's so much vitriol and like malice towards the Trump party that even like you either love Trump or you hate Trump. Like, you don't. A lot of people are ambivalent, but they're not present in this, thought experiment. People that love Trump will just go out to vote for him, right? The people that hate him will do illegal things, or will do whatever is in their power to counter that vote for him, and then some. So it's not just a vote for vote. Like, you don't hate Trump and just vote against him. No, you hate Trump, and if you have a position of power, you're then convinced that this is Hitler. And in a lot of ways, like early on, like, because I saw the media coverage of the kids in cages, but then it took I remember being on, like, I remember thinking about this early on and just realizing that, wait a minute, the very things that I'd be worried that Trump is doing is exactly what I know already the Democrats are doing, which is why I was so concerned about Trump in the first place, because the idea was, if the Democrats are this bad, Trump must be that much worse. And I think that's a lot of why the rhetoric has gone the way it has. Because we see the shittiness of our home party, but we know that the other party's worse. So because of that, we have to act as though the other party is going to be the death of us all. And it's alarmist stupidity that comes of it, because, people make dumb decisions when they're panicked. And, once this general state of the state is panic, we make stupid decisions. So, for instance, the most recent stupid decision has been the reopening of schools and restaurants, because we've been getting, protests around this disaster. We hit the top of the curve again this last December. We rode it down a little bit through January, and now things are opening up again in February. But just because the general trend had gone down, does not mean the effects that made it safe are no longer present. In fact, they're likely more present. And one of the most concerning things about this whole situation is that even if you are vaccinated, you can still be a carrier. In fact, you're more likely to be a carrier because you're free to go about. You're more likely to not be careful because you feel protected because you're vaccinated. And with the carrier status and the low, incredibly slow rate at which the vaccines can be disseminated, right? People are gonna get sick. Like, it's just inevitable. And people are gonna get careless because they feel like they're safe. Like, I'm safe. I don't really care about your safety. That's what's gonna happen. That is what's happening. And so you get this dual effect of carriers in schools because, teachers can still be carriers. The people that get vaccinated can still become super spreaders, if not ultra spreaders, because of this mess. And it's this dueling because, Biden won the election. We no longer have to worry about Trump getting the win by, whatever, good policy news. We can now have it all happen under Biden, yada, yada, yada. But because of the carelessness that came with it, it's just gonna compound, right? Because, went, peaked, fell, and now it's gonna peak again because we started working too early. Not even working, just releasing, just got comfortable. We got comfortable in our discomfort. And with that, it's been a year since the pandemic started. It was just a year since the first death from COVID in the United States. So people are tired of it. But that's what makes a siege, because sieges last 2 years, 3 years, 7 years, in fact, sometimes. And that's what I've seen this thing as. Like, where a species under siege by a microorganism. And because of that, we have to act as such. This is my stick because Kitty just came in. And she's about to go out again. In or out, cat. Alright. So, but the nice thing about sieges is that it's a great place to find romance, I guess. I mean, it also puts a lot in focus. Like, priorities have never been more clear. The Great Awakening, as so many people have liked to call it over the last few years, is actually upon us. Like, even though the song The Age of Aquarius has, been in, I guess, the modern focus or the modern milieu of thought, it's finally actually dawning. But with so I'm talking about the precession of the equinoxes, the change of ages, right? We've come from the age of Pisces, which, Christ with his miracle of the fish and the loaves, right? To the age of Aquarius, the water bear. It's going to be global floods. I mean, we're in global warming right now. Like, the sea levels are rising. It's very apt how creepily accurate this whole precession of the equinox cycle has been. And, so one of the things that I also noticed when I talk about alien stuff, and particularly the Oumuamua context, is nobody wants to hear the potential for catastrophe. I mean, it's part of why the news about COVID took so long to be heated, the news about global warming took so long to be heated. It's not until it's too late and it's unavoidable that we actually start doing something about it. I mean, it's a natural human impulse not to waste energy over preparing for something like this. But it's stupid. Because generally, the reason it is like this is that the people that knew best, like, for instance, like, 9 of de Blasio's science officers, doctors, aides, have quit because of this mess over reopening and, getting back to this semblance of normality. And that precipitates a continuous effect over other states. The first state to let up cascades the chaos across the rest of the country. And even though we're supposed to be more aggressive under the Biden presidency, as we're supposed to hear, that's his pitching point. That was one of his selling points when he got in, was running for office. The exhaustion from fighting this thing and the lack of serious leadership in terms of focus, strategy, explaining why we have to tough it out, not just for a couple weeks at the beginning. I think that was part of the dishonesty of this thing too, because it was 2 weeks to flatten the curve. But I said it from day one, it's going to be 18 months. That would be this June, or closely, more likely July, August, when we actually get some semblance of normality back in terms of infection rates. If we handled it right. But because we keep fucking it up, it's going to be 5 years, the way it's looking. And it's one of these things that it's the level of just sheer frustration doesn't even begin to cover it, because it's half my skull is ringing over the stress of it. And it's not just because I'm comfortable. I know that me and my family will be fine, just because we're informed. I make sure to keep them informed and to stay ahead of the disaster. Because that's what we're trying to do. But the general state of the state it's inevitable, because there are too many people that are poorly informed that don't have time to be informed because they're in dire straits. The economy is in shambles, yes, but the economy won't be able to recover for 5 years because of this, which leads us to the next presidency. So it's going to be 4 years of a shit show that'll then be the reason why Biden's not able to maintain a second term, because it's going to be a shit show, because he'll not be able to deliver on the campaign promises of fighting this virus. The vaccine rollout's going to be terrible, because of course it's going to be terrible. Understandably, sure, some side effects are happening. New research has come out that shows that mRNA does in fact create effects on DNA by creating knot groups. So the mRNA will bind to the DNA and become wrapped in histone groups. So effectively becomes part of the genome. So a lot of the myth that was sold with the release of the vaccine will start to become unraveled, which will shake public faith in science and just generally start a further breakdown of this whole mess. And I commend Fauci, but also find the level of politicking annoying, beyond belief. Because if we were honest at the beginning and just said this is going to be bad, and overkill would have been much better, because if we handled this as an overkill situation, we wouldn't be in the scenario that we're in now. People would have been angry, yes, but oh my god. And hindsight is 2020, so whatever. Oh, sorry about that. That was terrible of me. Yeah. Hindsight. So then you gotta look ahead. So how do you survive through this mess? How do you protect those you care about and love? How do you make sure you and those around you are not just content but safe? And the fascinating thing about it is that, like, there's more and more information coming out about the root of the very problems that make us vulnerable to an illness like this, right? Because I was reading about grounding today, or not even reading about it. I saw a short Instagram video, but it'd been something that I'd been reading about prior to this. And the idea is that we're electrical beings that need to, on occasion, exchange our energetic imbalances with the earth by literally, we are capacitors walking around overly charged, and because we hold, extra electrons in our body, which make us acidic. Like, free floating electrons make us acidic. So there's been this push towards alkalinity. And one good way to do it is with breath exercises. Another way to do it is with literally grounding, so you touch the ground, but with the soles of your feet. And it sounds woo-woo until you do the actual math and science of it. Like, treat. It's an electrical experiment, because it was one of those things I did as a kid, right? I would build up my body's electrical charge by any number of means. We had carpet in our rooms, in the whole apartment at that point when I was, let's say 8 years old. And, I'd walk around and build up my electric shock and be able to carry it to school. And then I realized, wait, you can carry this with you. But then as you get older and then learn what it means for something to be acidic, you realize, wait, I was turning my body into an acid at that point. Or my blood into an acid. Like, battery acid, quite literally. And this is what the general populace does on a regular basis, because apparently our souls are insulated. Well, rubber shoes and all that. Essentially just walk barefoot, it's good for you. Like, let's skip that around. But, this is a kill the messenger sort of thing. Because it is gross, and walking barefoot does cause hookworms. But hookworms are also one of the reasons the South is the way it is. With enough of them, it causes brain damage. Creates an environment rife for manipulation. Yeah. I just got some bad news, or at least some perceived bad news. Okay. Yeah. We're gonna deal with that when it comes. As for ways forward through this, we'll start going forward. I guess kind of that's it for the day. I'm not really feeling it much more right now. Yeah, sorry about that.